Shinship. When we talk about controlling the mouth, we are not just talking about avoiding bad language. Relationship, we are talking about something far deeper, the power of speech and the responsibility that comes with it. Every word we utter is like an arrow. Relationship, once released, it cannot be taken back. Allah has given us the gift of speech as a means to uplift, to heal, to guide, relationship, and to express gratitude. But sadly, many of us use it in ways that harm others and harm ourselves. Think about it, relationship. How often do our words spark arguments, break hearts, or create distance between loved ones? Sometimes it's not even intentional. A careless joke, relationship, a sarcastic remark, or a piece of gossip shared in the heat of the moment. The Prophet A reminded us with such simplicity, relationship, whoever believes in Allah and the last day should speak what is good or remain silent. That isn't just a suggestion. Relationship, it's a framework for a disciplined life. It's a call to mindfulness, to pause before we speak and ask ourselves, relationship, is what I'm about to say pleasing to Allah? Is it kind? Is it necessary? In psychology, relationship, there's a concept called verbal conditioning, where repeated patterns of speech condition your own thinking. Relationship. If your tongue is used to negativity, criticism, or mockery, your mind will begin to dwell in those spaces. Likewise, relationship. If you train your mouth to express gratitude, to make dhikr, to pray for others rather than curse them, relationship, you'll notice your heart softening and your mind becoming calmer. Subhanallah, Islam taught us this 1400 years ago. Relationship, long before modern psychology began to study it. There's also a profound philosophical reality. Here your words are a reflection of your inner state. Relationship, a mouth that constantly complains often belongs to a heart that feels ungrateful. Relationship, a tongue that spits out anger or slander often signals a mind and soul struggling with discipline. Relationship, that's why controlling the mouth isn't just about speech. It's about purifying the soul. And then there's the reward. Relationship. Imagine using your tongue to say Alhamdulillah when something good happens, or Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'an when something is lost. Relationship. Imagine choosing to stay silent in a heated argument, saving yourself from sin while earning Allah's pleasure. Every word withheld in patience. A relationship, every word uttered in kindness, all of it is recorded, all of it has weight in the scales on the day of judgment. Relationship. The next time you feel that urge to lash out, to gossip, or to say something unkind, pause. Ask yourself, is this word worth the stain it might leave on my soul? Or can I choose silence and find dignity in that? Control of the tongue is not weakness. Relationship. It is mastery. The one who learns to guard their speech is the one who learns to guard their heart. And when the heart is guarded, a relationship, the rest of the life falls beautifully into balance. Anger is one of the most powerful emotions we experience. Relationship. And yet it is also one of the most destructive when left unchecked. It creeps in silently, triggered by frustration, disappointment, or even ego. Relationship. And before we know it, it takes control of our words, our actions, and sometimes even our relationships. But the truth is, relationship, anger itself is not the problem. It is a natural emotion placed in us by Allah. The real test lies in how we manage it, how we restrain it, relationship, and how we channel it in ways that are pleasing to Him. The Prophet said, the strong man is not the one who overpowers others in wrestling. Relationship, the strong man is the one who controls himself when he is angry. This shifts the entire definition of strength. Relationship. Society tells us that strength is in retaliation, in shouting louder, in asserting dominance. Relationship. But Allah tells us that strength is in restraint, in holding back when every part of you wants to lash out. Think about that. Relationship. Real courage is found not in unleashing your anger, but in mastering it. Relationship. Psychologists talk about the fight or flight response, the body's automatic reaction when it feels threatened. Relationship. But Islam offers a spiritual third option: pause and redirect. When anger rises, the Sunnah teaches us to seek refuge in Allah by saying, relationship, to change our physical state by sitting if we're standing. Relationship. Or making wudu to cool the heat of that emotion. These are not just rituals, they are divine tools for emotional regulation, given to us long before modern science started studying stress responses. And anger doesn't just harm the people around us, it harms us too. It poisons the mind, clouds our judgment, and leaves us with words and actions we often regret. Relationship. How many times have we said something in anger that we wished we could take back? How many relationships have been strained, even broken? Relationship. Because someone, maybe us, chose the temporary release of an outburst over the long-term peace of patience. But here's the beauty. Every time we restrain our anger, we are rewarded. Allah promises His love to those who swallow their anger and forgive others. Imagine that in those moments of restraint, when your nafs is screaming to retaliate, you are earning the love of the one who controls everything. That love is worth far more than the fleeting satisfaction of getting even. So the next time anger rises, pause, breathe. Remember that your silence in that moment is not weakness but wisdom. Your calmness is not passivity but power. True strength is not in letting anger control you, but in showing your anger that it has no power over you. Master your anger and you master yourself. Relationship. And the one who masters themselves will find that Allah opens for them doors of peace, clarity and blessings that uncontrolled anger could never bring. Relationship. We often forget that money, just like time, health or knowledge, is a trust from Allah, a test placed in our hands. Relationship. Some of us are tested with abundance, others with scarcity, but in both cases, Allah is watching how we manage what we've been given. Relationship. The Quran reminds us that those who spend extravagantly are the brothers of the devils, and that's not an exaggeration. Wastefulness, greed, and the constant desire for more can quietly corrupt the heart, making us slaves to wealth instead of servants of Allah. Think about how money shapes behavior. For some, it brings arrogance; for others, anxiety and fear of losing what they have. Relationship. Psychologists talk about financial stress being one of the biggest sources of depression and conflict in families today. Why? Because when money becomes the center of life, peace disappears. But Islam gives us a balanced, practical philosophy. Earn through halal means spend wisely, save responsibly, and share generously. That balance brings barakah, blessings that no amount of money can buy. Relationship. Earning through halal channels is more than just an economic rule, it's a spiritual safeguard. When we cut corners, engage in dishonesty, or earn from impermissible sources, it doesn't just stain the income, it stains the soul. The Prophet taught that a body nourished by haram wealth is unworthy of paradise. This isn't to scare us, but to remind us that what we bring into our homes affects not just us, but our families, our children, and even the atmosphere of our homes. And then there's spending. Some of us spend as though the supply will never end, chasing brands, trends, and social approval. Only to find ourselves drowning in debt and emptiness. Others hoard, so afraid of poverty that they forget the beauty of generosity. But the middle path is where true peace lies, spending without waste, saving without stinginess, and giving without hesitation. When you give, you're not losing, you're investing. Charity is not a subtraction from your wealth. It is an addition. Multiplied by the one who owns the treasures of the heavens and the earth. Even a small act of generosity has profound psychological effects. Relationship studies today show that giving reduces stress, builds happiness, and strengthens relationships. But we didn't need studies to know this. Allah told us that charity purifies our wealth and our hearts. So the next time you hold that paycheck, or you're tempted to swipe that card for something you don't need, pause. Ask yourself, am I honoring this trust from Allah? Is this choice bringing me closer to Him or further away? Money in itself is neither good nor bad. It is what you do with it that defines its value. Master your money and you free yourself. Let your money master you and you will never taste contentment. True wealth is not in how much you have a relationship, but in how you use what you've been given for the sake of Allah. The mind is one of the greatest gifts Allah has given us, Relationship, yet it can also become one of our biggest tests. What happens in your mind eventually shapes your words, your actions, even the condition of your heart. Relationship. If your thoughts are pure, your life takes a direction of peace and clarity. But if your mind is filled with negativity, envy, pride, or doubt, relationship, that inner chaos begins to spill out into every part of your life. Relationship. This is why controlling the mind is not just about mental discipline. It's about spiritual purification. Relationship. Many people underestimate the power of a single thought. Every sin begins as an idea. Relationship. Every harmful word or destructive action is born in the quiet corners of the mind. Shaitan knows this well. Relationship, which is why he whispers, planting seeds of jealousy, suspicion, hopelessness, or arrogance. The Quran warns us about this when Allah says, relationship. Indeed, Satan is an enemy to you, so take him as an enemy. If you let those seeds take root, they grow, and before you know it, relationship, they manifest in ways that harm you and those around you. Relationship. Psychologists talk about the idea of cognitive patterns, the loops of thought you play in your head over and over again. Relationship. Islam teaches us something very similar, but from a divine perspective. When your thoughts are consumed with gratitude, dhikr, and hope in Allah, relationship, your mind finds balance. But when you allow fear, greed, or envy to dominate, your heart becomes restless no matter how much you achieve or acquire. Relationship, one of the most powerful ways to train the mind is to feed it with what benefits it. Spend time with the Quran, reflect on its meanings, relationship, and fill your inner world with remembrance of Allah. Positive thoughts are not built by accident, they are cultivated. Similarly, relationship. Avoid what pollutes the mind, whether that's constant comparison on social media, toxic company, relationship, or even habits that keep you spiritually distracted. Protecting your mental space is as important as guarding your physical health. Relationship. And when those dark thoughts do come, and they will, because none of us are immune, remind yourself that a thought alone is not a sin. Relationship. It only becomes dangerous when we entertain it, when we give it power. Replace it with something better, a silent prayer, a moment of dhikr. Relationship. A reflection on Allah's mercy. Over time, you'll notice that your inner dialogue changes, and with it, your outer behavior. Relationship. A disciplined mind leads to a disciplined life, and a disciplined life opens the door to peace, purpose, and closeness to Allah. Relationship. So the next time your thoughts begin to spiral, pause and remember you have the choice to let your mind drift into darkness. Relationship. Or to guide it back to the light of Allah's guidance. Master your thoughts and you will master your state. And when your state is right with Allah, relationship, everything else begins to fall beautifully into place. Relationship, self-discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Not just in this life, but in the hereafter. Every act of worship, relationship, every moment of patience, every time you hold back from something haram when it's within reach, all of it is built on discipline, relationship. Allah tells us in the Quran that true success belongs to those who purify themselves, and that purification is not accidental. Relationship. It takes conscious effort, consistency, and the willingness to put your desires in their proper place. Think about fasting. Relationship. One of the greatest acts of worship. The physical hunger, the thirst, the fatigue. They are all tools training us to control the self. Relationship. If you can stay away from food and drink, things that are normally permissible, just because Allah commanded it, relationship, then surely you can stay away from what is haram at all times. That's what self-discipline does. It strengthens your will. Relationship aligns it with what pleases Allah and teaches your nafs that it is not in control. You are. Relationship. Psychologists often talk about delayed gratification, the ability to say no to a short-term pleasure for the sake of a greater long-term reward. Relationship. Subhanallah. This is what Islam has been teaching us for over 1400 years. Every act of patience, every act of restraint. Relationship. Every time you lower your gaze or bite your tongue, you are choosing the eternal over the temporary. Relationship. And each choice you make in that direction builds a stronger, more resilient you. But self-discipline isn't just about avoiding sin. Relationship, it's about building habits that bring you closer to Allah. Setting aside time for prayer even when you're tired. Relationship. Turning to the Quran even when your phone is calling your name. Giving in charity even when it feels inconvenient. These small, a relationship, consistent acts are what separate those who merely wish for Jannah from those who strive for it. Relationship. Discipline is the secret ingredient behind every person who has tasted the sweetness of Iman. Relationship. It's also important to understand that discipline doesn't make life rigid, it makes life balanced. When your desires are in check, relationship, your priorities become clear. You stop chasing everything and start focusing on what truly matters. That sense of balance brings peace. Relationship, the kind of peace money, fame or status can never buy. Yes, you will slip, we all do. But discipline is not about perfection, it's about persistence. Relationship. It's about getting back up every time you fall and asking Allah for the strength to do better. The more you train your soul, relationship, the easier it becomes to choose what pleases Him over what pleases the nafs. True freedom is not in doing whatever you feel like. Relationship. True freedom is in mastering your desires. And when you learn to discipline your soul for the sake of Allah, you'll find that your heart, your mind, relationship and your life begin to align with His guidance. And that is where real success begins. No matter how much we talk about controlling our tongue, relationship, our temper, our wealth, or our thoughts, the reality is that human willpower is limited. There will always be moments when you feel too weak, too tired, relationship, or too overwhelmed to do it on your own. That is why the final and most important step is to turn to Allah and seek His help. Relationship. Without His guidance and strength, our efforts will always fall short. But with His help, even what once felt impossible becomes achievable. Relationship. The Prophet taught us a beautiful dua. Allah, help me to remember you, to thank you. Relationship. And to worship you in the best way. Notice the humility in those words, acknowledging that even remembering Allah is not something we can do by ourselves unless He allows it. Relationship. This mindset is liberating because it shifts the burden from relying solely on your own strength to placing your trust in the one whose strength never diminishes. Relationship. Spiritually, this is called a tawakkul, complete reliance on Allah. It doesn't mean sitting back and doing nothing. Relationship. It means you put in your effort, you make your plans, you discipline yourself, and then you hand over the results to Him. Relationship. That balance between effort and surrender is where true peace lies. Relationship. Psychologists today talk about acceptance and letting go as pathways to mental well-being. Relationship. But Islam has been teaching us for centuries that surrendering to Allah's wisdom is what brings clarity and calm to the heart. Relationship. Think about the times in your life when you tried to fix everything yourself, relying only on your own plans and strength. How exhausting was that? Relationship. And how often did it leave you anxious, frustrated, or even resentful? But when you include Allah in your efforts, relationship, suddenly there's a sense of reassurance. Relationship. You understand that you are not in control of everything. And that's okay, because the one who is in control loves you more than you can comprehend. Relationship. Even in moments of failure, when you lose your temper, say the wrong thing, spend carelessly, or allow negative thoughts to take over. Relationship. Turning back to Allah keeps you from drowning in guilt. You recognize your weakness, repent sincerely. Relationship. And start again, stronger than before, because you've learned to rely on Him, not just yourself. This constant cycle of effort, reliance, relationship, and renewal builds resilience. It makes you stronger without making you arrogant, disciplined without making you rigid, relationship, and hopeful without making you complacent. So never underestimate the power of a sincere dua, a whispered Walallah. Relationship. Help me in the quiet of the night. Because when Allah is with you, even your smallest efforts are magnified. Relationship. And even your greatest struggles become lighter. Real strength is not in thinking you can do it all. Relationship. Real strength is in knowing you can't, but that the one who can is always just a prayer away.